Hello, wizards, witches, and everyone in between. My name is Emma, and welcome back to another Common Room discussion. I don't have tea today. It's too hot for tea. I just have water. And usually I'm not wearing makeup in these videos, but I've just been having fun with makeup recently, so yes. So it's been a long time since I made a discussion video, and today I wanted to talk about series versus standalones. I recently filmed the rapid fire book tag, which asks the question series versus standalone. And that book tag has been around for a while, so I've seen many people do it, and I think almost everyone I've watched says series over standalones. So I just wanted to talk about why that is. I personally prefer standalones. I feel like a lot of people say they prefer series because if they like the world, then they want it to keep going and they want to like stay with the characters and the world and stuff longer, which I understand, but I personally don't feel that way. I think I've just read so many series where the first book is the best one, and then the second book is always the middle book slump where it's literally a filler for the third one, if we're talking trilogy. And then the third one like ends disappointingly, or not that much plot happens until the very end. That's just interesting to me because I'm like, if the series had ended after one book, would that really be a bad thing? Like if it was a standalone, we never would have had a shitty second book and then a controversial ending to the third book. I don't know. And series wise, I just can't commit to that anymore. Even if I loved Sarah J. Maas's writing, I would never read Throne of Glass. I would never read that series because it is too damn long. It would take way too much time. I am so hesitant to start series even now. I'd rather just be able to experience more worlds than be in the same world with the same characters for multiple books. It's like, here's a 5-book series. Or I could have read 5 standalones in that time and experienced 5 different things instead of like the same thing drawn out over the course of time. I think another thing that bugs me about series is that sometimes you can tell that the second book was not planned, where like the plot of the second one is something that was never ever brought up in the first one. Like it's new info, like, by the way, the villain has a brother. Or the letter that the main character read that told her that she was the chosen one. There was actually a second letter that she never read. Or there was more to that letter, but it got burned off and then they found the second half. And I'm like, and it always feels forced and it always feels like, hey, here's some new info because there were no seeds planted in the first one for a second one, so we're like making things up as we go. And that's fine because you gotta get that bread, but I don't know, I don't like that. And I do feel very hypocritical because Harry Potter is like my everything, and so is the Hunger Games, and those are series. But I think aside from those ones, like I read standalones more often than not now. And I think part of that maybe is because I do read more variety than just young adult fiction. Young adult fantasy loves its series and its trilogies. Everything is a series. I recently listened to An Enchantment of Ravens, and I'm currently reading Sorcery of Thorns by Margaret Rogerson, and those are both, I think Sorcery of Thorns is a standalone. I know for a fact An Enchantment of Ravens is a standalone. And it is very rare to find fantasy standalones. I really enjoyed An Enchantment of Ravens. It was a little bit fluffy for me, but that's fine. I think I gave it a 3, so that's like, I mean, it's a solid rating. I'd read it again. I'd recommend it. And it created this whole world. It had this whole plot arc, and it wrapped it all up. And as much as I really love the main character, I'm like, I'm good. A lot of adult fiction is almost always a standalone. Thriller, horror, that genre is almost always standalone. And I get it, like fantasy leans itself towards series because you have like a complex world that you want to develop more. and you have, you know, maybe like a magic system or something that you can explore and you can get a bunch of material out of like a fantasy world. But it doesn't have to be, you know, a long drawn out thing. Fantasy standalones obviously exist, they obviously work, and I don't know, I just kind of prefer it. So another example of me and my views on like standalone versus series is the Raven Cycle series by Maggie Stiefvater. I read The Raven Boys, gave it 5 stars, loved it. And I'm sure I will love the rest of them. I have not continued with the series yet, which I plan on doing that. But I love, like, 5 stars. That's a good rating. I loved so many of the characters. I love the magical realism in that. So good. And as much as I love those characters, the setting, the vibes of that book, I would be fine if the Raven Boys, like, that was it. I'm not like, oh, thank God it's a 4-book series. I think I can tell that I'm also gonna feel that way about the Grisha trilogy by Leigh Bardugo. I really enjoyed Shadow and Bone, and I suffered my way through Siege and Storm. And I'm about to start Ruin and Rising, so we'll see about that. But all I know is the second book was not great, and I would have a better opinion of that series as a whole if it was just the first book that existed. So I don't want this video to get like super long or anything, so I'll leave it there. But those are kind of my thoughts on it. I'm not like passing judgment on anyone who like loves series or anything like that. I just kind of wanted to give my side of the story, vouch for fantasy standalones. All you authors out there, fantasy standalones are amazing and I love them. Let me know where you fall on this issue. What side do you take? Are you team standalone or team series? Are you team Edward or team Jacob? And I will see you guys in my next video.
Bye!